What are we going to eat this week? Well, that video starts now. Hello family, welcome back. If you're new here, welcome. I am Vicki and you're with Grammy in the Kitchen. So this is Saturday and this video is dedicated to what we eat in a week. And the first meal is a 1 skillet pasta with pink sauce. Let me show you all the components we have for this dish. So I took a pound of our locally grown butchered hamburger from the freezer. I have about a half of a pint of heavy cream. I have some tomato powder that we're going to make a paste. 6 ounces of elbow macaroni. 1 of our home grated Parmesan cheese. This is a 1 cup measure. Salt and pepper and different herbs. But first we need to make our tomato paste. Now you can use the can of tomato paste if you want. All you need is about 1 to 2 tablespoons. But I have this powder, and because it has no anti-caking in it, we have to break it up. That looks good. I'm going to put 2 tablespoons in this little ramekin, and I'm going to add just enough water to make it into like a paste. Perfect. We're going to let that sit and bloom. We're going to move over to the stove. So I have the 12-inch cast iron skillet on the stove top. I'm going to turn it on medium heat. Let that heat up. I'm going to add a little bit of avocado oil. Go ahead and add the beef. And I am going to cook this till it's about 80% cooked. I don't want to cook it till it's done because I want it to finish cooking in the sauce. That way it can add some flavor to our delicious pink sauce. That's probably going to take anywhere between 10 and 15 minutes. Okay, so we're about 80% cooked. You can still see some pink. That's what we're looking for. So we're going to add our tomato paste. And you know we love this Italian dressing mix for our Alfredo. So we're going to add 2 teaspoons. It's better than Italian seasoning. We're going to add a half a teaspoon of garlic powder and a half a teaspoon of onion powder. I'm going to add a good pinch of salt and a small pinch of pepper. I'm going to put in about 2 quarts of water, and I am going to totally guesstimate. I'm going to bring this to a slight boil, then we'll add the macaroni. Once the macaroni is done, we'll add the heavy cream. So I'm starting to see a little bit bubbles. So I know the water is hot. It's not a roiling boil, but it is a little bubble action. Let's go ahead and add 6 ounces of macaroni. And I'm going to cook that until the pasta is about al dente, and that means with a bite. So it's not going to be completely done. It'll be almost done. But once we add the heavy cream and the Parmesan cheese, it'll finish cooking and then dinner will be ready. Every now and then we're going to come in here and scrape the bottom to make sure the pasta is not sticking and burning on the bottom of this pan. All right, we're just going to let that do its thing. Just in case you're curious, it already has a delicious smell to it. We can't taste it yet because we didn't cook that hamburger all the way. You don't want to taste anything with raw hamburger. And I have some crushed red peppers. This is a last minute addition. I'm going to add just a pinch. It's probably 1/8 of a teaspoon. Just enough to give it a little heat. That is totally optional. You do not have to do that. Matter of fact, you don't have to do any of these recipes the way I do it. This is just a guideline to get you into your kitchen, get creative, and make things from scratch. All right, I'll see you back when the noodles are ready for us to move on. All right, family, it's been about 10 minutes. Let's check a pasta. All right, I think we're ready to move on. So I have 1 cup of heavy cream. I want to make sure I get all the goodness out of here. This is some good heavy cream. And I'm going to let that cook for a bit until some of this water evaporates. And then we can add our Parmesan cheese. Then we'll be able to taste it and see if it needs anything. What would I do different to this recipe? First, I will start off with adding less water. I probably could have gotten away with just a quart, and then if I needed to add any more, add a 1/2 cup at a time. But we already committed to the 2 quarts. But if you make this recipe at home, just start off with 1 quart of water and then add as you need if the pasta's not done. I'm going to give this about 30 minutes, see if we can get some of this liquid evaporated off. We are about 15 minutes into that 30 minutes. Let's see if we can get some of this liquid evaporated. I think it's safe to taste. It needs a lot of salt. So I'm going to put in a good pinch and a small pinch. It needs a little bit of pepper. I'm going to add another teaspoon of Italian dressing mix. I have a can of green beans that I drain. I'm going to add that in here. Delicious 1 skillet dish with vegetables. Now if you have broccoli, use that. You like spinach? Go ahead. It's okay. Use whatever you want. Peas, corn. Leave it out. It doesn't matter. I think it is good. Oh, family, it is really, really good. Let's go ahead and add our Parmesan cheese. I'm going to go ahead and add a whole cup of grated Parmesan cheese. Stir that in, and that's also going to thicken the sauce up a bit. It is a little soupier than I was expecting, but that's my fault. And I'm going to give it another 10 minutes, and then we're going to call it. Look at that, family. It's absolutely gorgeous. It thickened up a bit. Ah, the smell coming from this pan. I let it sit for about 10 minutes and it thickened up perfect. The starch from that pasta is doing its job. perfect meal in a bowl. And as they say, the proof is in the pudding. Let's see if we can find the perfect bite with some hamburger, some macaroni, some sauce, some pasta. I'm pretty excited. Family, that is really good, but in my opinion, it needs just a little bit more salt and pepper. And all the recipes will be in the description below and any links that we use this week. So make sure you check that out. That is perfect. Well, as soon as the husband gets home from work, we're going to sit down and have dinner. I can't wait to bring you back in the kitchen and we'll make another delicious meal together. And this is totally versatile. Use any kind of pasta, use any kind of ground meat, use your own spice blend, whatever you want to do. You want vegetables, add vegetables. If you don't want vegetables, leave them out. You have control over this meal when you cook it in your home. I'll be writing that down in my cookbook. That is really good. Well, it's time to cook dinner. I have one of our frozen but thawed 4-pack of loin roast pork chops. We're gonna do a 1 cast iron skillet baked dish. So far we have 5 potatoes that I peeled. I cut in half, and I'm gonna slice them about 1/4 to a 1/2 inch thick. I'm going to give these a quick rinse. I want to make sure they're dry as much as possible. So I just have a piece of paper towel. Oh no, I lost one. All right, that is good. This is the last pepper we had left over when we did the Italian sausage subs last week. I'm gonna slice those julienne style, about 1/4 inch. And I have 1 red onion. I've already cut the sprout in and the root in, peeled it, and I'm also going to cut those from top to bottom or pole to pole, 1/4 inch slices. Perfect. So I have the large 12-inch cast iron skillet. I had it in a 400-degree oven, letting that heat up. So it is scorching hot. I'm gonna add a little bit of avocado oil on the bottom, dump in our vegetables. I'm going to add a little bit more avocado. I'm probably doing a total of about 1/4 cup. I'm going to season it with a tablespoon of salt, 1/4 teaspoon of pepper, 1 teaspoon of onion powder, one teaspoon of garlic powder, And I have some smoked paprika. I'm going to add about 1/4 teaspoon. Make sure everything is tossed and well seasoned. We haven't even cooked it yet, and it already smells so good. All right, I'm going to put this back in the oven. Let it get a head start for about 30 minutes while we prepare the pork chops. I have a cake pan. This is some sourdough breadcrumbs we made together. Homemade sourdough bread. Cut them up into cubes. Bake them in a 200-degree oven for about 3 hours. Every 30 minutes, go in there, toss it. Once they were dry and cooled off, I put it in the Ninja blender, and we have breadcrumbs. I'm going to put about 1 cup of breadcrumbs in here. And my breadcrumbs are unseasoned, so we want to make sure we're seasoning their breadcrumbs. It's a teaspoon of salt. Quarter teaspoon of pepper. Half a teaspoon of garlic powder. Half a teaspoon of onion powder. And we're going to carry the paprika flavor also to the pork chops. So it's about 1/4 teaspoon of paprika. Havana potato. So this is 4 pork chops. When I catch pork loin roast on sale, I will buy them, cut them myself, and save a few bucks. Taking a paper towel to dry them off a bit. I'm just going to put it in our seasoned bread crumbs just to give it a nice coating. Pat it on there really well. So we're going to give those potatoes and the other vegetables a 30-minute head start. And then we can go ahead and put our pork chops right on top of those potatoes. Cook it for another 15-30 minutes. Then dinner will be ready. The only other thing we're going to have is some home canned corn. We canned this together last summer when Amanda was having her hospital spells, and one time she was home, we canned some corn. That is her corn. So I'll see y'all in another 27 minutes. All right, so it's been 30 minutes. Just want to check the doneness of the potatoes. They're not quite ready, and that's exactly what we wanted. I'm going to lay our pork chops right on top of those potatoes. And I'm going to drizzle just a little bit of honey right on the top. Maybe a total of 1/2 tablespoon. It's not that much. Back in the oven, between 15 and 30 minutes until the pork chops reads 145 degrees. And as for the corn, I'm just going to add a pinch of salt and pepper and about a teaspoon of butter. Put that on the stove, low heat. Let that heat up while we're waiting on the oven to finish cooking the rest of the dinner. Okay, that was 15 minutes. These are fairly thin pork chops. It shouldn't take too long, especially since the pan and the oven is nice and hot. Oh, perfect. Let's check a potato. I think we're done, family. Oh yeah, perfect. The husband's not home yet, so I'm not going to eat a full meal, but I do want to taste everything. So I got a little bit of potatoes, some vegetables, and a pork chop. I'll put a splash of hot sauce on my plate. And I went ahead and scooped up a little bit of that corn, seasoned with salt and pepper and a little bit of butter. The corn still has a little crunch to it. Oh, it's so good. Some potatoes and vegetables. Perfectly seasoned. And some of our sourdough breadcrumb coated with some honey pork chops. Out of this world delicious. That's what we're going to have for dinner today. There should be enough here to have for lunch tomorrow. I will see you the next time we get in this kitchen and make another delicious meal. So the next meal we're going to make is a pot pie. We're going to use one of our turkey soup starter casserole that we canned together with turkey we got on sale right before Thanksgiving of 2024. I took out 4 mashed potato balls out of the freezer. Been sitting on the counter for a couple hours now. But we're going to make pie crust on the bottom, mashed potatoes on the top. But first we need to make our pie crust. So this is my simple all butter pie crust, but I'm only going to make half the recipe because we only need 1 pie crust. So in this bowl I have 1 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour. I need to add a half a teaspoon of salt, and I have 4 ounces or 1 stick of butter that I cut up into small cubes. Make sure that all that butter is coated with that flour. I'm going to be using a pastry cutter, but if you don't have a pastry cutter, you can go in there with your fingers and just give them a little smush into the flour until they're small little pea-sized butter chunks. But if you do have a pastry cutter, and I suggest you invest in a really good pastry cutter, you're going to go in here and you're going to rock it back and forth between so the butter and the flour will get mixed together. This just makes cutting the butter into the flour so much easier and faster. Now for years I have used my hands. It's not a problem, but I was gifted this beautiful pastry cutter for Christmas, so I am going to use it. And if you were doubling this recipe and you wanted a crust on the bottom and the top of your pot pie, just put 2.5 cups of flour, 1 cup or 2 sticks of butter, a teaspoon of salt, and just add enough water till everything comes together. That looks good. So we have a little pea size of butter in here. You can still see them, but they're no big chunks. This is ice cold water. I'm going to add a couple tablespoons, let's say 4, to start off with. And you want ice cold water so your butter doesn't melt from the warm water. Get that mixed in. Once it comes together, we don't need to add any more water. All right, that was 4, 5, and 6. It's time to get in there with their fingers. I'm going to add 1 more. All right, let's go ahead and dump this on our counter. Try to get all the dry bits incorporate into our pie crust. I think we have enough water. We just need to get everything well incorporated. Yeah, I think we're good. Move everything out of my way. I'm going to put some flour down on my surface. And I have my rolling pin. You want to make sure you have a well-floured surface so this all butter crust will not stick. Just forming it into a nice little circle. We're going to roll it out. Keep moving the dough to make sure it's not sticking. Oh, you can see the pretty butter chunks in there, family. Absolutely gorgeous. That's going to give us a nice flaky pie crust. Add more flour when you need it. Okay, I think we are good. So I'm going to roll the dough around the rolling pin. So I have a 9-inch pie crust. I'm going to roll our dough right on top. Now when you're putting your dough in your pie pan, you don't want to smush it down. You want to lift up your sides and let it drop in the corners. Use the back side of your finger to push it down in there. Without stretching your dough, you just want to let it drop in that corner. All right, that looks good. I'm going to put this in the refrigerator while I clean up, and we'll get started on the filling. I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of butter to a medium-sized saucepan, and we're going to make a roux to use as a gravy. I'm going to add just a small pinch of pepper, a good pinch of salt. I have some chicken broth powder. I'm going to add 2 tablespoons. That's just going to give us another level of flavor. And 2 tablespoons of flour. I'm going to let that cook for about 1 minute. And then I'm going to slowly add in the broth from this jar. I'm going to strain it. Give it a good whisk to make sure we don't have no lumps. I'm going to go ahead and turn the oven on 350 degrees. Let that heat up. And I'm just going to let that cook for about a minute or 2. Let that broth heat up, activate that roux, and we'll have a delicious gravy. Let's taste it. That is very good. You can already see it starting to thicken up. All right, let's go ahead and start building our pot pie. So we have our pie crust out of the refrigerator. We're going to add our pot pie filling, which is our soup casserole starter. Make sure everything is spread out here perfect. Now if you wanted to turn this into a real chicken pot pie, or in this case a turkey pot pie, just add some diced potatoes and add another crust on top. We're using our mashed potato balls. So we'll add our gravy. Perfect. Let's put our mashed potato balls right on top. And let's work on the crust. So I'm just taking the knife, going right around the edge. Right around that pie plate. This is the same ice water we used to make the pie crust. If you can see right here, we're short a little piece. So I'm just going to take some water on my fingers, put it on that pie crust, and that's going to act like a glue. And add some of our scraps to that. Oh, that's beautiful. Just do a little one right here. There we go. Nobody will be the wiser. And I'm going to take it and I'm going to fold it under maybe about a 1/2 inch all the way around. And then I'm going to take 2 fingers on one hand, 1 finger on the other hand, and I'm going to push the dough in between, and that's going to give us our beautiful scallops. How beautiful is that, family? I'm going to put this on a pizza pan right in the center, just in case we have any overflow. It won't go into the oven, it'll go to the pizza pan. This is going to go in a 350-degree oven. It's probably going to take between 30 and 45 minutes, but I will definitely let you know how long that took. I have the oven set for 30 minutes. We'll check on it, and in the meantime, I get to wash all the dishes we just used, which is not a lot considering we already had everything in that pot pie cooked from that canned turkey pot pie casserole filling. We just have to wash the dishes that we used for the pie crust and this. Excuse me, Morty. Thank you. So it took an hour. I did it for the 30 minutes, and then I did it an additional 15 minutes, and then I did it an additional 15 minutes. So it took an hour, but the crust is nice and crispy. I let it sit here for about 30 minutes, just so that gravy can thicken up and not be a big old mess. The first slice is always the hardest to get out with any kind of pie. Ooh, look at that, family. Oh, yummy. I'm going to get all my goodness out of here. There we go. And let's see if we can find the perfect bite. Some crust, some gravy, some vegetables, little piece of turkey, potatoes. We're going to find that perfect bite, and I think we did. That is really good. That's when I'm going to sit down and have dinner. Can't wait to bring you back in the kitchen, and we'll cook something else. The last meal we're going to make this week is fish to go, but we're making it at home. I want to start off by making some cheddar bay biscuits to get those in the oven, and then we can get our flounder ready to cook that. I'm actually going to have rice, but we're cooking that on stovetop. Because if you haven't noticed, my countertops are getting crowded with the ice machine, with the Ninja blender, just the things. Oh, I need a bigger kitchen, but that's okay. Let's get started on some cheddar bay biscuits. So I have 3/4 cups of milk. I'm going to add a splash of vinegar, maybe a tablespoon. That's all you need. And if you have buttermilk, just substitute it with buttermilk. Buttermilk is not something I have in-house, so souring your milk is the same way. So in this bowl, 2 cups of flour, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, a half a teaspoon of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of salt. I have some Old Bay seasoning, and I'm going to put 2 teaspoons of Old Bay seasoning. 8 ounces or 2 sticks of butter cut up into cubes. And we'll take a pastry cutter, break the butter into the flour mixture. I make biscuits all the time, but I figured since we are doing seafood, we'll do some Cheddar Bay biscuits. And this is some home grated sharp cheddar cheese. I buy my cheese in bulk with as your standard. I grate it right away. Measure them out into 2-cup measures, and I put them in the freezer. I'm only going to need a cup. And it's still a little frozen, but that's perfect because we want our butter to stay cold also. I'm going to eyeball a cup. That looks good. Get the cheese, the butter, and all the baking soda, baking powder, salt, and Old Bay mixed in really well. And now we're going to add our sour milk. All right, let me clean up. We'll start rolling. We'll try to get as much of the dry ingredients mixed in really well. All right, it's time to get in there with our hands. I'm going to knead it just a bit just to get everything incorporate. Have a lot of dry bits right here. Bench scraper is your friend when you make biscuits or bread. It just helps pick things up so much easier. I think we are there. I'm going to add a little bit of flour on my bench. Right now we're going to flatten it out and do our folds before we cut into it. You can use a rolling pin if you want, but I find this dough just works well with just your fingers. All right, we're going to fold it in thirds. And fold it in thirds. Pick up anything that falls out, like butter chunks or cheese chunks. Fold it in thirds the opposite way. And fold it in thirds again. Need a little bit more flour. So this is our last fold that's going to go on the bottom. Now we're going to flatten it out to cut our biscuits. Trying to contain it into a nice rectangle. Okay, so we're going to cut it in half, cut it into quarters, and each quarter I want to cut into fours, and we're going to end up with 16 biscuits. I have a parchment paper lined baking sheet. I usually cook this in a cast iron skillet, but I knew I was going to have a lot of biscuits, so I figured I'd just go ahead and put it on the baking sheet. There we go. I'm going to set that aside. Let me clean up a bit. And we'll get started on that fish. So I'm going to put the biscuits in the oven. It's going to take anywhere between 25 and 30 minutes. We'll set the timer for 25. Check on them to see if they're ready. If not, we'll extend it for the whole 30. Before we get started on the fish, let's go ahead and get our rice ready. I'm doing rice stovetop this time. This is our basmati rice. So I have a cup of basmati rice. I'm going to add a tablespoon of butter, a pinch of pepper, probably an eighth of a teaspoon, and about a quarter to a half teaspoon of salt. I have 2 cups or 1 pint of chicken broth, and that's going to go on the stove on medium heat until it comes to a boil. We'll reduce the heat and let it finish cooking. So I have 4 pieces of flounder. Have it on paper towels so they'll dry. Let's go ahead and get our breading station ready. So I'm going to add 3/4 cup of flour, a pinch of pepper, a good pinch of salt, 1 teaspoon of Old Bay seasoning. Set that aside. I have some sourdough breadcrumbs. I'm going to put about a cup in here, and of course a little bit of salt, pepper, and I'm going to add a half a teaspoon of Old Bay seasoning. All right, set that aside, and 1 egg. And just a small pinch of salt. That helps loosen the protein in that egg. I am going to add about a 1/4 cup of water. Perfect. So we have our flour, our egg, and our seasoned breadcrumbs. I do want to dry the fish, so I have a piece of paper towel. Perfect. I'm going to go flour, egg, breadcrumbs back on this cutting board. Because flounder is so flaky, I'm using both hands. We're not doing a wet and dry. So we're going to wear most of it on our hands. But that's going to be okay. last piece. All right, my rice is boiling. I'm going to turn it down on low. Let it finish cooking. Perfect. Let me clean up a bit and wash my hands. Let's check on those biscuits. Oh, family, look at that. They're so beautiful. So I have the large cast iron skillet with coconut oil. Letting that heat up. Over here we have our rice, because we're going to pan fry our fish. I have a little bit of water on my finger. Just splash it in there. When you start hearing the reaction between the water and the oil, you know you're ready. Probably have about 2 cups of oil in here. And I'm going to cook 2 at a time, just about 5 minutes on each side. I think that will be enough. I'm going to be using the double spatula process, trying to get these to turn. Oh, look at the golden brown. Oh, it's beautiful. Oh, family. Beautiful. Let's go ahead and remove the first 2. And now we're going to add the second 2. Again, 5 minutes on each side. Still waiting on the rice, and the biscuits are still in the oven. Now I'm going to make a homemade dipping sauce for the fish. So I have a little bowl here. I have some mayonnaise. I'm going to add 2 tablespoons, any mayonnaise of your choice. I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of sweet relish, a 1/4 teaspoon of Old Bay seasoning, and a teaspoon of Dijon mustard. We'll mix that together. Oh, family. Oh, that is so good. Put everything away. So everything is ready. The biscuits took 28 minutes. I cooked it for the 25. I extended it for 3 more minutes. The fish was cooked in 2 batches of 2. 5 minutes on one side, flipped it, 5 minutes on the other side. As for the rice, I did have to add an extra cup of water. I'll let that cook on medium-low until all the liquid had evaporated. I test a piece of rice to make sure it was soft and not crunchy. But in the time it took us to cook the biscuits, we were able to make rice, fish, and a side sauce. So less than 30 minutes, and I'm not counting the time to make the biscuits, but if you want to count the time it took to make the biscuits, in less than 45 minutes, we have dinner. Let's make a plate. The husband's not home yet, so I'm not going to make a real full plate. So I got a little piece of fish. I want a biscuit. Some rice. And some of our dipping sauce. So before I taste this last meal of this week, I want to ask you to please hit that thumbs up. And while you're at it, go ahead and subscribe. I would love to have you part of the Grammy family. In this kitchen, we take the things we like to eat outside the house, bring it in the house, and make it from scratch. We have a delicious homemade fish dinner that you would do a takeout for, or even eat at a restaurant. Oh, that fish has the right little crunch. Add a little bit of dipping sauce. Family, it is better than anything you can get at a fast food seafood place. And our rice is just simple basmati rice, chicken broth, salt and pepper, and a little bit of butter. And we did add another cup of water. Cooked to perfection. Soft, no crunchy bits. And our cheddar bay biscuits. That is actually better than that franchise that is known for their cheddar bay biscuits. Oh, family, so good. So as soon as the husband comes home, we're going to sit down and have dinner, take out seafood, cooked at home. Until next time, y'all have a blessed day. Can't wait to bring you back in the kitchen, and we'll do something wonderful, homemade, from scratch, to feed our family. I forgot how good cheddar bay biscuits are. Oh my God, family, you gotta try this.